Hello, Internet. My name is the Golden Stalfos, and today I need to talk about a show that's not worth talking about. And, before I do that, I should explain why I would do that. So, a little while back, like in 2018, a bunch of memes started circulating about this new anime called Demon Slayer, or, in the original Japanese, Kimetsu no Yaiba, which is not at all a weird name to say with an English accent or American accent, but you know what I mean. And basically, all of the memes were about the chibi anime girl, and you know, 99% of the time, if the most notable thing about your show is the fact that it has a cute girl in it, show's not worth watching. Um, Also, just in general, like every season, there's a new show that gets tons of hype, even though it's not that good, and I don't bother. So, yeah. But it was recently revealed that this year, that manga outsold One Piece by a lot, which is crazy. A part of it might be the fact that the manga ended this year, and, you know, most stories have a big jump in sales right when they finish, because everyone wants to see the whole thing. But they don't normally outsell One Piece because One Piece outsells everything by default. It has basically since it started being printed. One Piece sells more units than the series that inspired it. I mean, hot damn. Um, so, anything that even comes close to that number of sales is worth taking a look. And when it, passes it, I'm just like, okay, what the fuck's going on? Why are people into this? But the problem is that the show isn't actually good. And if it wasn't for the fact that it got these sales, I wouldn't have watched it. Um, I mean, it's good enough. Like, I don't feel like I wasted my time because I saw it, but it doesn't do anything unique or interesting or special that isn't done by every other shonen series out there. Um, and so, whatever, Normally I wouldn't talk about it. I'd just say it's not worth talking about. But, you know, it sold so much. And I had to watch it and look into it because of that. And so now I need to make a video explaining why I think this series isn't worth talking about. Because I feel like I'm probably one of the few people who thinks that based on how popular it is all of a sudden. Um, and so I find myself in the awkward position of talking about why something isn't worth talking about, which is not a thing that you normally do. It's not a thing that I would normally do, at least. So, sorry, bear with me. Okay, so let's go through this chronologically. I started watching with the show instead of jumping directly into reading the manga because, well, part of the reason why the manga became popular is because it got an anime adaptation. So I wanted to see what that adaptation looked like. How good is it? It's 26 episodes long, which is a pretty decent length for a starting show. Um, you know, and it's made by Aniplex and Ufotable, which is the same tag team that makes the Fate series, which is a great series. So, you know, what could go wrong? And I mean, in terms of animation quality, it's about what you would expect from Ufotable. Like, it's pretty good. Um, but but the animation quality isn't like the biggest factor when it comes to watching a show like this. There are other things like storyboarding and the sequence of events that just and I realize that those aren't necessarily the fault of the animators, but like when you're adapting something, you should at least try to redo the storyboard so it works a little better. Um, so, for example, the first episode, they want to go directly into the action of the series, right? And the series is about this kid who, you know, makes it his life mission to kill demons and join the Demon Slayer Corps. Um, Couple of problems with this. One, this kid is part of a family of people who make charcoal and sell it to the local village, which, like, at first seems reasonable, like, whatever. But then you realize that this story is set in, like, the 1920s, and you just, like, what? Do these people not have electric lights? Or anything more efficient than fucking charcoal? What are you. What? Anyway, I'll put that aside until later. But but the bigger problem is that it does that thing that a lot of stories do where it starts off with a happy world and then it gets completely shit-wrecked, and that's the impetus for the hero to dedicate their life to, hunting the evil or whatever. Like Attack on Titan. But in Attack on Titan, we spend the entire first episode with Eren and Armin and Mikasa and just like see their happy life. We get to see them interact with the parents, the bullies, the town drunk, all of it. And they go around and do stuff, and then shit hits the fan as an end of episode cliffhanger, right? Whereas in this story, main character's family gets like zero point 0.0 lines each before they're killed off screen. like there's one scene at the very beginning where they're telling him goodbye as he goes down the mountain to sell the charcoal. And then he comes back the next day and they're all dead except for his sister who turned into a demon. And it's exactly that sudden and abrupt. And I don't even know any of the other characters' names. I honestly don't. I'm not even sure how many other siblings there were exactly. I just know there were at least 2 others that died. It's so bad. Like, give us some investment in the character before you start killing them off, you hack. Anyway. So then we find out that his sister is a demon, but because their bond is so strong, she doesn't try to eat him. Which, okay, cool, but you didn't show us why they have a strong bond. Like, you say they're related, sure, but I know lots of brothers and sisters who aren't related, and you make it sound like this is the first time ever that a family bond has mattered to a demon, so what makes it special? I mean, is it one of those weird Japanese brother-sister things where they're actually dating for some fucking reason? God, I hope not. Spoiler, no, it's not, but they never do explain why their relationship is special. It's just, ooh, it's special. Which is dumb, lazy writing. And then, so the first episode is, 10 minutes of happy life, and then catastrophe, and then another 10 minutes of them just, in the forest being confronted by a demon slayer who ends up not slaying the demon, and sends them on their way to get training, I guess. And then they go and you have one episode of them traveling to get to a place where they can meet the trainer guy, and then there's another demon fight, and then the third or maybe 4th episode is entirely a training montage, and the only dialogue is the main character narrating his training in the past tense. Why? Don't get me wrong, I love training sequences in shows, and I love the montage of it. It's great. But when Master Roshi takes Krillin Goku up on their milk route, they don't just show the footage and have Goku talk over it. No, they have conversations and they interact, and things happen during the whole time instead. It's just really sloppy, lazy writing where they just don't care. They just want to get to the end so that they can do the interesting stuff. And like, you have to earn the interesting stuff. But whatever. It's a training montage. Who cares? And it doesn't need to take an entire fucking episode, but it does. So whatever. And then there's this section where they're like, okay, your training's over. I can't teach you anything else, so now you have to break this rock. And if you can't break the rock, then you don't get to move forward. And so then he meets these two ghost kids who train him in how to break the rock, um, which is like an aspect of the series that is never really addressed. Like, it. The series isn't supposed to have magic in it. Like, it's never really mentioned. You know, there's demons, and some of them have special abilities that are kind of like magic. But everything is either explained as like poison or, you know, something like that, instead of being like a magical effect. But they're ghosts, you know? And, okay. And then, you know, after we've spent like 3 episodes watching this kid train, he goes to the final exam where uh, where he suddenly starts pulling techniques out of his ass. Like, all of the training we saw was just, oh, he's swinging his sword 1,000 times and trying to breathe underwater for some reason and running through a bunch of traps. But we never saw him, like, learn any techniques. We never saw the old man, like, square up and teach him something. Um, so then when he gets to the exam and he has to start like fighting, he just pulls special techniques out of his ass that have a number on them, and like, what? Where did this come from? Why didn't you tell us that he was learning techniques? What? Uh, you know, like, it's just lazy. Like just all you had to do was mention, oh yeah, my signature style is water sword strikes. Let me teach this to you, and then that would be fine. I mean, like, but they didn't do that for some reason. Um. So anyway, you know, he gets through the trial. He gets his fancy sword, and the cool thing about these swords is they can kill demons, which, okay. I mean, earlier you made it seem like you could do it with other swords, but whatever. And they change color when you wield them. You know, not like mood rings or anything, but just like the color depends on the person, which is cool, I guess, but not really that interesting. Um, and the main character's sword turns black because of fucking course it does. And also he's like the only one whose sword turns black. Ooh, like, oh god, fucking. Anyway. Um, yeah. So then he sets off on his quest to kill demons, I guess. I don't know. Um, like, he just, you know, gets orders from a crow and goes to a new town and fights a new demon in like a villain of the week setup for 3 villains before the story shifts to something else. Um, which is fine, I guess. Also, his sister was in a coma the entire 2 years while he was training. Not for any, like, reason, but just because they often don't want her to be involved in the story, so they make her fall asleep so that they don't have to bother writing her. Uh, which is how you know the story's great, you know? Um, so then, like, they go through the villain of the week shit for a little while. Um, he runs into some allies. You know, he figures out a way to start like, or he finds someone who can help him, who offers to help him work on like a anti-demon serum. But he has to get blood from really powerful demons to make it happen. Fair enough. Um, and they just go through that for a little while. And then some more villain of the week shit. He stumbles across some other demon hunters who were in his same group and, who graduated at the same time as he did. And they basically become a unit for the rest of the story. They go on some more adventures. Then they end up going to this big fuck off scary mountain full of spider demons. And there's a bunch of one-on-one fights, some group encounters, some other more experienced demon hunters are there. It's a whole thing. And eventually the good guys win, the bad guys lose. But in the process, the good guys figure out that our main hero is traveling with his demon sister, and they take them in for questioning. So, that. Then, after they go through questioning, there's this sequence where they introduce all of the important characters for the rest of the series. The pillars, as it's translated in English. They're basically just the top swordsmen of the organization. And they all seem like giant dick bags, except for one or two of them. And then the meeting just ends with them going off to someone else's compound so they can rest and train up and then go out on their next mission after a while. And that's kind of the formula. They have a big encounter and then they go back to some medical compound where they get healed up and shit, and then they go back and have another big encounter and then they have to go heal up and shit. And then it just kind of goes like that for a while. So one of my biggest problems with this story overall is the fact that it doesn't earn its plot points. It wants to be hero's journey, shonen story, but it doesn't do anything to earn it, right? These 9 top swordsman people are very similar to the 13 Court Guard squad, but with none of the personality or time to develop. One guy is introduced and he's the fire user in the group, and he's exactly what you expect from the fire user in the group. He's just that Vermilion guy from Black Clover, but in this anime instead. It's the same fucking character. He's effortlessly powerful and confident and speaks in an overly loud voice and is just he's not even charming in his overbearingness. He's not Major Armstrong or something. He's just kind of loud in a way that is dumb and uninteresting. I mean, I suppose he has the quirk of speaking a little bit like Mr. Krabs and referring to people as my boy. But other than that, he's just kind of generic. Anyway, he's introduced and has a grand total of 12 lines, not even talking to the main character. Then he and the main character go off on a mission together. They talk for a grand total of 2 minutes with each other. And then the fight starts. And then after they beat the first demon, a second, much, much more powerful demon shows up. He's top 3 in the evil organization. So he shows up and he fights with the Flame Bro, and everyone else stays out of it because they're too weak. And they fight to a stalemate. The sun's gonna come up and fry the demon because demons are vampires, and he's gonna win. But then for some fucking reason, even though the heroes see this and see that their guy is about to win, they interrupt and cut the demon loose and let him go. And their guy dies anyway. What are you doing, you dumbasses? You were about to beat him. You fucking suck. And then he has the dramatic death speech where he passes the torch on to the hero and all that, and it just like cool, I guess, but it feels so unearned. We've known this character for 10 seconds and he's dead already, and like, why do we care? Why do you expect us to care? Ugh. The series also has this really bad problem of not dropping information that is relevant until after it would have been relevant. Right? Like, they'll be in the middle of a fight and the main character's backed against the wall, and he thinks back to a conversation he had with one of the other characters that gives him important information he can use in this moment. But we never saw that conversation until just now. Why didn't you show us the conversation before the fight instead of during the fight? That's stupid. um, because like in a well-paced story, in a well-written story, we see things happen that build up to other things, and we get to like, you know, learn from that and connect with the characters because of their experiences, you know. But in this, it's just like, well, we wanted to have this big dramatic moment, but we didn't want to put in the effort to lay the groundwork. So here, and it doesn't even really feel like an ass pull. Like there are moments in shows like Naruto or whatever where characters are fighting and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, you didn't know I could use this super awesome mecha thing." Um, you know, and it's just like, well, where the fuck did this come from, and how are they supposed to deal with it? You know, but but it's not like that. It's more like, yeah, we always planned on these characters having this conversation. It's a character moment. We just didn't bother to tell you about it until after the fight was already started because we're lazy. I don't know why. Lay the groundwork before you pay it off. Like, that's writing 101. Set up, then pay off. I don't. You don't pay off, then set up. That's stupid. But that's how this story is written through and through, you know? And it's very generic. Like I said, like, you've got a good guy team and a bad guy team and one ultra bad guy who's been around forever, but a long, long time ago, one guy who looks a lot like the main character almost beat him, so now we know the main character is going to do that. It's so boring. Oh, and also that one guy from a long, long time ago had a really special breathing power that is better than everyone else's breathing powers, and the main character learns how to do it because his dad taught him when he was young, and he just didn't realize it until halfway through the fucking series. And it's just, ugh, why? Why is it so boring? Like, to be fair, it's not bad, you know. I've complained about it, but it's a fine story, It's just, what sets this apart from any of the shit that Rurouni Kenshin was making fun of 30 years ago? You know? Like, how has the genre not evolved past that point? I mean, like, oh, by the way, don't support Rurouni Kenshin. That show is, I mean, the show is good, and then the manga is interesting, but like, the author is a terrible, horrible pedophile fuckface. So don't give him any money. Pirate it or something. I don't care. But like, I was reading through the manga online on a website that has captions, and or not captions. That's that's not how manga works. Comments. That's what I meant to say. It has user comments, and every single chapter, people were leaving comments like, "Man, I'm getting such vibes of this other anime." Like so many different anime were suggested. People talked about Agame ga Kill and Naruto and Bleach, and like everything you can think of, they compared this to, because this is so bland and generic that it doesn't do anything that isn't done better by every other show. Bleach is a great comparison, honestly, because you've got the good guy squad, uh, where each person fights with a sword and has a slightly different fighting style, and the bad guy squad, where each person just is a demon monster with their own unique shit going on. And but the difference is, in Bleach, the swords are sentient and they each have like a unique special power that changes the landscape of the fight. Whereas in this, the swords are just swords and the special power is the same for everyone. It's Hamon from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but instead of, just being life energy, it manifests itself as like, fire or water or wind or beast, whatever the fuck that means. Um, and so it's like, fine, I guess. Like, I mean, Hamon is a cool power system, and I wish it had been explored further instead of just being abandoned in favor of the boring, generic, uninteresting stands. But but I don't think that this really does anything with it that the original story didn't. Um, so I don't know why it's here beyond just they felt like using it. Um, I mean, they don't call it Hamon; they call it like full focus breathing or something like that. But really, it's just they take in air, and as long as they're able to breathe properly, they have superpowers. So it's Hamon, you know, um, and they use it to kill the vampire demons the same way that JoJo did. And honestly, I think that's why the demons explode in sunlight is because JoJo did that with their vampire demons. Um, I don't know. So, yeah. But the overall plot is exactly what you would expect from a shonen series, right? Like it starts off with the main character being weak, and then he gets stronger, and then he fights a strong opponent, then he gets beat up, and then he fights a strong opponent, then he gets beat up, then he fights a strong opponent, gets beat up, like every fucking time, you know. And the fights always get bigger and more dramatic as it goes on until the final battle with the big bad takes like 100 chapters, which is half the runtime of the fucking series. Um, I mean, to be fair, that final battle is like a base invasion type thing where they have to fight multiple top tier demons in different groups. So it's kind of like if if the Soul Society invasion or something like that, all compressed down into 4 fights, but but still, it does take for fucking ever. Honestly, after having finished the series, I think it's probably about 100 or 200 chapters shorter than it should have been. If we'd had more time to get to know the characters, see them train, have them interact with each other in between fights, I think it would have been a much better series. Because like it's got a good foundation. It's just like stories like Bleach with all the personality stripped out. So if you took the time to add in your own personality, it could be just as good as that. Sorry if my voice is going. I've still got the fucking Rona and it's ugh, man, I hate it. So, you know, but it's also one of those anime that has like this very power fantasy setup where the main character is just like better than everyone else just because. And ugh, ugh. And the main character is just so generic too. Like oh, he has a strong forehead and headbutts people because that's what every anime protagonist does. Oh, he has an excellent sense of smell because that's what every fucking anime protagonist has done ever since Goku. I mean, at least they don't make him eat mountains of food like that, but, you know, he doesn't really have anything that sets him apart from characters like Goku and Gon, and it's just, I've seen this shit before, you know? Like, I've seen it so many times. Now, the main character does occasionally have an interesting moment during, like, character interactions, where like someone will say something that normally would cause a specific reaction, and the main character, because he's not you know used to that situation, reacts in a way that just makes no goddamn sense. Like uh like there's this particularly interesting moment towards the end when he's training with the pillar people, and one of them is like, I still don't accept you, uh because he doesn't like the fact that he has a demon sister or whatever. And then the kid is like, well, I don't accept you either. You stabbed my sister. But he says it with a smile and a happy face and just like walks on to go to the training. Like it's no fucking big deal. And I do kind of like that aspect of the character where he can be like effortlessly like sassy angry but also like nice at the same time. And like there are a lot of other moments like that throughout the series where he has a moment of uniqueness, like just for one line, and you think, huh, if we saw this more often, I'd actually like this character. Because it's like how Luffy is, right? Like where you get into a situation and you expect a certain thing to happen, but then Luffy just steps up and he's like, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna clock you. you know and it's not what you would expect. Like everyone else is freaking out and setting expectations for the scene, and then Luffy just walks in and he's like, "What? You wanted me to turn myself into a fucking windmill? Let's do it." um, you know, and it's that kind of moment. I mean, not to the same degree, but it's that kind of moment. And there's a handful of them throughout the series that like are kind of nice. And if there were more of them, or if anything was done with those moments, this character could be really interesting. But as it is, they're just like individual, like tiny moments, and you know. Um, so overall, I don't really care about him. Um, none of the characters are really all that interesting. Honestly, they're all kind of in that same vein where like, yeah, we've seen this before. Like there's one guy who is a feral beast character because he was raised by pigs. Um, and like the whole time I just kept like every time he's on screen I just think of like the sidekick character from uh Ranma. I can't even remember his fucking name, but the guy in the yellow outfit, he's like that. I mean, they don't make a big joke out of his sense of direction, but he's like that. um you know or like there's a sidekick character who you know is a scaredy cat weakling loser, except when he falls asleep and becomes a sudden secret badass. Woo! Like we haven't fucking seen that shit before, you know. And also like the story sometimes just has plot points without earning them at all. So for example, um, that character originally was the underdog partner of someone else. Like they were training together, and it had that like Naruto Sasuke vibe where one of them was effortlessly good and the other one had to work really hard just to like compete. Um, and And then the one who's effortlessly good ends up, going and becoming a demon. And so they have to have this final showdown during the last battle invasion thing, where the main character has to, or where the good guy character has to prove that no, I can compete with you, and whoosh. But one, this is the first fight in the entire series where this character fights while awake, which is weird that it comes out of nowhere like that. Two, he doesn't tell us that his old partner is a demon until that fight. Like, it's clear that the character knew it was happening, because there's this moment earlier on when the character is training and he's like, no, I have to do this myself. It's very important. In retrospect, it's clear that he was training for that incident. But we, the audience, didn't know this was coming until it had already happened. Why? Like, there's a flashback where both of these characters are shown, but it never says that one of them went to the dark side. Nothing is ever stated. But then, like, in the fight, the main character is all like, not only did you turn to the dark side, but our master killed himself out of shame, and you have to atone for that. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Why didn't we know about this sooner? What the shit? Why didn't... and he makes a big deal out of it. Like, the whole chapter is in full color, which is crazy because most of the other chapters are not. And their whole fight takes place during that chapter, so we can all be in full color. And I just keep thinking, like, if you're going to put so much effort into it, if you knew it was coming, why didn't you build it up with the audience? Why didn't we know this was coming? Why couldn't we get hyped for this and feel for, Lightning Boy and his struggles? Like, why didn't you spend a chapter or two on his training sequence so that we know, so that we see his determination and root for him and, like, basic ass shit that you should have fucking done and didn't for some reason. I don't understand it. So yeah, that just says it all. That's how the story is written. Like, all the way through, the story is just, hey, we don't have any clue what we're gonna do yet, but here it is. Get hyped. It already happened. Like, why? Why don't you take the time to hype it up first? Put some effort in. Like the final battle, like at the very end when the bad guy is finally defeated, it does that stupid thing that every show does where the bad guy corrupts the hero and the hero goes feral and everyone has to, try and stop him while reminding him of his humanity and begging him for, it's just, oh God. And then his waifu, who is only his waifu because they had one scene together. One. They had one conversation together. And it was that magical, life-changing conversation where he brought her out of her shell and completely defined her personality. Like, that was their only conversation. Whatever. So then she saves him, even though no one else can, because fuck it, right? And it's so dumb. It's so dumb. And it feels so unearned. Like, the hero or the villain has never shown that he's, wants to pass on a legacy or whatever. He wants to live. He wants to be a monster forever. He's not going to settle for passing on his will to the good guy. And, like, you know, it, part of the reason he picks the good guy is because, oh, your sister was able to survive the sunlight, and that therefore you should be able to do that too. So I'll give you my power and my will, and you'll just be me, but powerfuler. And okay, but his sister didn't go feral and kill everyone, you know? Um, and he's nicer than her, as far as I can tell. So why doesn't he get the chance to, you know, not go evil or snap out of it, Uh, it's just, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. And then right after that, they have like 3 chapters left, right? One chapter is the main character sitting in a hospital bed for the entire chapter, and that's the finale. Then there's a flash forward chapter where everyone has been reincarnated in the modern era for some reason, and it just reads like a cringy high school setting fanfic, which is gross. And then there's like one more chapter where they go back as like a special one shot and show us some of Flame Boy's life before he became a pillar. And like, why? Why'd you put that after everything else? It doesn't even tell us anything new about the character. Like, it just shows him beat up a demon and that's it. Like, it's so dumb. Ugh. So yeah, there are 1,000 better shows out there. You know, if you really want something about killing demons, Kakaishi, Yu Yu Hakusho, Bleach, fucking anything, man. Um, if you want something that gets dark and bloody and oh my god, Hunter x Hunter, fucking Full Metal Alchemist. There's 2 versions of Full Metal Alchemist you can watch. I mean, if you want something that's got an ensemble cast of interesting characters, Hiroaka, Naruto, Bleach, Fairy Tail, One Piece, the fucking king of ensemble casts. Um, I'm sorry, but no one is more entertaining to watch than the Straw Hat Crew. Just laying it out there. Um, and like, I don't know, man. This show is just so generic, right? Like, there's so much of it that like draws on the same Japanese myths that every other anime draws on, and so like you already know who the character archetypes are as soon as you see their character design, because like, yeah, of course the lady who's designed like a butterfly specializes in poison and has this whole backstory of like, oh, like, yeah, we get it. It wasn't fucking hard to figure that out. We've seen this shit before. you know and usually we've seen it in a more interesting way, right? Like, I don't know, it just I feel like the series wanted to be good but didn't take the time to be good, and ends up being generic and boring and samey instead. Um, Now, again, I don't hate it. I like the standard shonen model. I've seen tons of other shows like this, and I have no problem reading, watching through and reading through this, whatever. But I'll never go back to it, and I'll never think it was that great, and I'll never, recommend it to someone else. Like, I mean, if you've been through 10,000 other shonen series and you legitimately have run out of better shows to watch, then yeah, sure, it's worth your time, I guess. But I mean, if you haven't finished the better stuff, then just ignore this. Go watch something good, you know? Go read through Hunter x Hunter and watch Bleach and, like, just spend your time on the classics, not the average crap that keeps getting pumped out, you know? Um, yeah, that's all there really is to say about it. Like, it's just bland, boring, generic, samey, whatever. And there's nothing it does that isn't done better by other shows. And I don't know, man. Like, I'm just not interested. You know, it just doesn't interest me. So so yeah, that's my review of the Demon Slayer thing that everyone else is so hyped about. It's not worth the hype. Get hyped about better stories. Go read Kakaishi, or watch Inuyasha, or fuck. I mean, so many better stories out there. Like, even just within the realm of shows about people that hunt demons, like, I can think of at least 5 better stories off the top of my head. There's Bleach and Yu Yu Hakusho and and Inuyasha and Kakaishi and Blue Exorcist, you know. And honestly, like, the list goes on and on. Like, demon hunting is one of the most popular things in Japanese anime, you know. I mean, fuck, I'd even take something like Shaman King over this. Like, Shaman King may be archetypal and generic, but like, it came out 20 years ago, so it was archetypal and generic in a less offensive way. you know? Um, uh, I mean, there are certainly some annoying aspects of shonen that this show avoids. Like, it doesn't really rely much on uh, hentai shit, you know? There are a couple of weirdly lewd shots of main character's sister when she goes full demon mode, which, she's 14, chill. Um, but other than that, like, it's not really a thing, which is good. I don't know. It just doesn't do anything worth talking about. It doesn't do anything great. It's just there. And all in all, I think you'd be much better off spending your time with any other show, you know, or manga or whatever, you know. I say show because most things get animated at some point, but like, there's a lot of great stories that don't get animated. Actually, one of my favorite manga ever, which is a shoujo manga called uh, Angel Sanctuary. And it's weird. Don't get me wrong. It's fucking weird, and it does some of that weird Japanese shit that you shouldn't be into. Um, but that's about demons. It's about a war between heaven and hell, and you know, it makes it morally gray, which is a weird thing to do in a war between heaven and hell, but it works. Um, and so you can read that if you need a story about hunting demons, uh, or fighting with demons. I guess they're not really hunting them all that much, but yeah, whatever. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like there's just so many better things to do with your time. Eh. Oh, you know what? There's another thing that I just thought of. I can't remember what it was called though, but there was this really bad shoujo manga about this like gaijin girl who falls in love with a tengu, you know. And that is a better demon story than this. Um, it's really cringy, and it's one of those like very unhealthy relationships that is framed as being romantic because it's for 13-year-old girls, and for some reason 13-year-old girls can't look up to healthy relationships. But I remember reading that in middle school and being like, God damn, Japan, what is your damage? And I would still reread that before I would reread this. Um, I don't even remember what it was called, honestly. I think it was like Black Feather or something like that. Something stupid like that. But anyway, so yeah, don't waste your time on Demon Slayer. Go watch something good. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next life. Laters. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you have any things to say about it, leave those in the comment section. If you like the video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, share the video, tell your friends, start a cult, sacrifice your firstborn and paint their skull golden. I don't know, not that last bit. No human sacrifices. I'm legally liable. No, none of that shit. But, I got Facebook, Twitter, Twitch. I stream on Mondays. I also have a Patreon, but the obvious caveat with Patreon is you never donate to anyone unless you have money to burn. And if you have money to burn, then why not donate to a charity instead? I've got a few linked in my description at all times. I'm not affiliated with any of them, obviously, but yeah, I just thought they were cool. So, thanks for watching.